Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Job chapter 38. God speaks. We've been throughout this book, and remember the bulk of this book has been from the human perspective. I want to toss a thought in here from this perspective, and as we sometimes think, why? In other words, we get glimpses of the revelation or the heavenly revelation, right? God gives us glimpse, and we should only take those as glimpses. In other words, don't try to add to that. And there are many teachings and theologies that do just that. But so in every instance in the Bible, every instance where you have a heavenly scene, it is only meant to show a glimpse of it. Okay, so the book of Job, then, the 90% of the book of Job, then is the discourse between Job and his friends and Elihu. So why is that? Again, this is just a thought here. Why is that? Well, why would you would have this bulk here? And let me just say this: the bulk of the Bible, the revelation, scripture, is centered on or revealing or telling God's purpose. And that is why we see mostly what is going on earth in this space-time continuum, okay? Which was a fascinating discourse because you have Job's friends trying to condemn him and Job refusing to be condemned, okay? In the process, Job even gets to the point of saying, I want to hear from God, right? And sometimes we feel this way. You get that arrogancy, right? That, okay, and I hear people say that. And that's why I think Job is so relevant today, because you have a lot of people that this whole I'm angry at God. Now, let me just say the whole I'm angry at God bit. God can care less if you're angry with him. Let me also be clear that God is loving and he is gracious and he is merciful. But your anger towards God doesn't move him at all. It just more or less reveals how your arrogance. One preacher, by the way, he lost everything at one point because of his arrogance. But he even said one time, and this is after he lost everything, that he forgave God. That's arrogant, okay? That is arrogant. Excuse me. Job didn't do that. What Job however, he did say was that in his view of himself, he was like, I want to talk to God. I want to plead my case to God, but God is nowhere around. I would say, God, answer me. But you can find him. I know you can't judge God, you can't take him to court, but I certainly would like to have a crack at him. Well, God shows up. And as, of course, this was God's design in the first place. Okay? Remember, God's purpose was to show Job's integrity, which he did prove. He proved that. Now he's going to... I want you to pay attention to God's response to Job. I want you to pay attention to when Job said, I would plead my case, I would ask him, tell me, God. But I want you to pay attention to God's response. Chapter 38, verse 1. Then the Lord answered Job from a whirlwind. He said, who is this that obscures my counsel with ignorant words? Get ready to answer me like a man. When I question you, you will inform me. Okay, Job, you wanted to talk? Let's talk. But again, I want you to pay attention to God's answer or questions. Where were you when I established the earth? Oh, wow. Okay. I don't think Job expected this. He said, where were you when I established the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who fixed its dimensions? Certainly you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? What supports its foundations? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Who enclosed the sea behind doors when it burst from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its blanket, when I determined its boundaries and put its bars and doors in place, when I declared, you may come this far but no farther, your proud ways stopped here. Now, of course, at the time they didn't know. We kind of know now how God did this, gravitational forces. Verse 12. Have you ever in your life commanded the morning or assigned the dawn its place, so it may seize the edges of the earth and shake the wicked out of it? Now, by the way, this kind of language, as God, remember, God could have given scientific language that we use today. And keep this in mind, that there are words that men compile together. But certainly God could have explained this in a scientific way. But how would Job would have understood it? So he uses terms like this. For example, we know the earth doesn't have a foundation in the sense of it's a sphere, right? That's suspended in the universe. Okay? The gravitational forces and all of the other things in the universe. Now, an astrophysics probably could explain this better in the sense of how God is coming down on our level, and of course the knowledge available at the time. Verse 14, the earth is changed as clay is by a seal. Its hills stand out like the folds of a garment. Light is withheld from the wicked, and the arm raised in violence is broken. Have you traveled the course of the sea or walked in the depths of the ocean? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the extent of the earth? Tell me if you know this. Where is the road to the home of light? Do you know where darkness lives? So can you lead it back to its borders? Are you familiar with the paths to its home? Don't you know? You were already born. Have you lived so long? Now God's kind of toying with Job, isn't he? Come on, Job, you know all of this, right? Come on, you kind of act like you was God at one point. You know, you was rearing your chest up. Come on, you know all this stuff here. In other words, I want you to come to my level, Job, so we can have this kind of discourse. But before we can do this, tell me, give me your resume, Job. Verse 22. Have you entered the place where the snow is stored? Or have you seen the storehouse of hell, which I hold in reserve for time of trouble? Kind of interesting thing about here, we will see in the book of Revelations where hailstones would be used to judge the earth. Remember, in Egypt, God used hailstones against Egypt. Verse 23, which I hold in I'm going to go back to 22. Have you entered the place where the snow is stored? Or have you seen the storehouse of hell, which I hold in reserve for times of trouble, for the day of warfare and battle? What roads lead to the place where light is dispersed? Where is the source of the east wind that spreads across the earth? Who cuts a channel for the flooding rain and cleared the way for lightning, to bring rain on the inhabited lands, or the desert with no human life, to satisfy the parched wasteland, and to cause the grass to sprout? Does the rain have a father? Who fathers the drops of dew? Whose womb did the ice come from? Who gave birth to the frost in heaven? Then water becomes as hard as stone, and the surface of the watery depths is frozen. Can you fasten the chains of Pleiades or loosen the belt of Orion? Now, what also we are getting a description of here is the term world, or the Greek word cosmos. Okay? All of this is what the world is. Okay? Verse 32. Can you bring out the constellations in their seasons and lead the bear in her cubs? Do you know the laws of heaven? Can you impose its authority on earth? Can you command the clouds so that a flood of water covers you? Can you send out lightning bolts and they go out? Do they report to you? Here we are. Who puts wisdom in the heart, or gave the mind understanding? Now, this is very interesting. Who put wisdom in the heart and gave the mind understanding? And a couple of things. One, wisdom here. Wisdom comes from God. But notice he said, who gave the mind understanding? So even now, when we're looking at this time frame here, and you see how they talk, well, who gave them that understanding? Well, God is the one that gives wisdom and understanding. So, in other words, man, when you look at these pictures of evolution, where men start off as apes, and then they evolved into human, and then all of a sudden you see these pictures where they had a stick, and they rubbed the stick together and they created fire, and you see the evolution of knowledge. Of course, there's absolutely no evidence for that. And it is, of course, a denial of the one and true God. God is the one who gives wisdom and understanding. Verse 37. Who has the wisdom to the number of clouds, and who can tilt the water jars of heaven? When the dust hardens like cast metals, and the clods of dirt stick together, can you hunt prey for a lioness, or satisfy the appetite of young lions when they crouch in their dens and lie in wait within their jars? Who provides the ravens food, and when the young cry out to God and wander about for lack of food? All right, let's go to the next chapter, because God is not finished. Chapter 39, he says, do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Have you watched the deer in labor? Can you count the months they are pregnant, so you can know the time they give birth? They crouch down to give birth to their young. They deliver their newborn. Their offsprings are healthy and grow up in open fields. They leave and do not return. Who sets the wild donkey free? Who released the swift donkey from its harness? I made the wilderness its home, and the salty wasteland its dwelling. It scoffs at the noise of the village, and never hears the shout of the driver. It roams the mountains for its pasture land, searching for anything green. Would the wild ox be willing to serve you? Would it spend the night by your feeding trough? Can you hold a wild ox to a furrow by its harness? Will it plow the valleys behind you? Can you depend on it because its strength is great? Would you leave it to do your hard work? Can you trust the wild ox to harvest your grain? and to bring it to the threshing floor. Now you notice God is continually giving out things of nature, right? Things he created. Job has not created one thing. And remember, God is like, come on, I need your resume so we can have a talk right here. I'll listen to you, Job, but come on, tell me, have you done all these things first? Which just happens to be everything. Verse 13. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully, but are her feathers in plummet like the storks? She abandoned her eggs on the ground and let them be warm in the sand. She forgets that a foot may crush them, or that some wild animal may trample them. She treats her young harshly as if they were not her own, with no fear that her labor may have been in vain. For God has deprived her of wisdom. He has not endowed her with understanding. So again, if you watch, again, if you were able to watch all of these things of creation, you would see these things are true, right? That ostriches are not the wisest animal. And I can't speak beyond that because other than watching the Wild Kingdom and watching these wild videos, videos of wildlife, I cannot answer this myself. Verse 18. When she proudly spreads her wings, she laughs at the horse and its rider. Do you give strength to the horse? Do you adorn his neck with the mane? Do you make him leap like a locust? His proud snorting fills one with terror. His paws in the valley and rejoices in his strength. He charges into valley, and he charges into battle. He laughs at fear, since he is afraid of nothing. He does not run from the sword, and quivers. A quiver rattles at his side. Along with flashing spear and a lance, he charges ahead with trembling rage. He cannot stand still at a trumpet sound. When the trumpet blasts, he snorts defiantly. He smells the battle from a distance. He hears the officers shout with a battle cry. Now watch this. Does the hawk take flight by your understanding and spread its wings to the south? Does the eagle soar at your command and make its nest on high? It lives on a cliff where it spends the night in its stronghold in its rocky crag. From there it searches for prey. Its eyes penetrate the distance. Its broods gulp down blood. And where the slain are, it is there. Kind of interesting, we get a little glimpse into the nature of nature itself, right? Like we know now that an eagle does have some of the farthest sight. It could, see things from miles, like a pin drop, okay? Again, we see God is basically, and notice notice this, God is not talking about things that, he's not talking about particle beams, right? He's not talking about a lot of the mysteries of the universe. He's challenging Job just for what is in the earth, right? Challenging Job just within the earth. All right, guys, we'll pick it up again with God's closing remarks next time. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comments section below. All comments are welcome. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you in the next study.